Alright, so today we're going to be doing a request. This one was a consume payoff deck with Glusty, Ren Warrior, things like that. I tried to put together the best version that I could that could generate a lot of points and wasn't super reliant on those payoff engines, otherwise it just wouldn't work. So there's some good point slams in here as well. I felt like a lot of the provisions that we could use over 9 weren't as valuable with this specific deck, so I decided to make it a Serie Nova deck to see if we can get that extra payoff and a little bit extra push if we have the resilience on the Serie. So it looks like today we have a few matchups that are control-based matchups, which are probably our hardest ones. So we're just going to go through it here and see if we can make it through the next few games. First off, Precision Strike. When you see Feign Death come out on round 1, you know it's probably traps, so we have to watch out for that. And I'm not on coffee number 1 of the day. I'm actually finished coffee number 1. I moved on to something a little bit stronger. We got the energy drink going on, so don't worry, it's actually closer to noon right now, so but I've been working on this one for the last couple days, and it just took a few versions to be happy enough with it to post it to show you guys kind of how it goes. And if you guys are wondering about like the creative process, how I make my videos and stuff like that, I basically just record on OBS and I listen to music in the meantime, and you know, got my headphones in and stuff like that. Once I play a bunch of games and I know off the bat that there's like a good amount of games, usually I'll write down in the notepad or on my phone which ones I want to include. Then we go into Premiere Pro, we sequence it all up together like that. And then I load up a third-party software and I do like an audio take, and when the audio take's done, I come in and I edit that, just put a little bit of compression and noise reduction, because my mic is okay, but it's not, you know, the best mic. And then after that's all done, I throw it back and I put it all together on Premiere Pro, encode that, export that, go into Photoshop. I try to find like a background picture or something that has to do with the deck or the theme. Like the other day I did like the background to the Redea video, I did like a picture of Skellige from The Witcher 3, so I try to get creative with that. I didn't know how to make thumbnails, so what I did was I went on Fiverr and I actually I paid someone to make thumbnails for me for a week, and then I realized sort of the pattern that I like to have, the look I like to have, and then I paid him for the source files, and then I practiced reverse engineering the thumbnails until I sort of figured it out, and then it just kind of stuck with me. So that's kind of like my whole process. Let's get back to the video here. And you know, the typical works. That's why I was talking over it. We've all seen this 100 times. You've got elves just coming down with a lot of tempo in round 1 trying to take it. I'm trying to play around some traps here by putting a token on the board, hoping that they just don't click a serpent trap on deploy kind of thing. A little bit of pressure, Serie comes down, puts us in a spot where we're winning on even, and we have the carryover, which is awesome.
Slaughter them to a man!
And we're just going to continue to trade cards back and forth. I mean, there you go. What's difficult in this situation for them is that they have a pretty full board, so they have room to play 2 cards. And I'm understanding that at this point, so that's why I'm playing a Rider from hand, because it puts us ahead, and because I know that they can only fit so much here. So and again, I'm thinking maybe it's a horn bluff or something like that at this point. When they sandwich it between 2 units, it's sort of like, you know, they're baiting you a little bit. The board's full, but with that going off here, me thinking that it could still be another trap that I have to play into, and you could consider this maybe a little bit of a mistake, right? Because all I have is specials in hand, and there is a strong possibility that it is a serpent trap. So there's a serpent trap. But what's nice about it is the fact that we're getting these out early. So we got 3 traps played, so the whole trap thing isn't as great. That's played. We did technically lose on even here. However, I know traps don't bleed, and we have the carryover with Siri Nova. So again, I took these precautions before we decided to play it out and see, you know, how far we could take it. I'm actually happy in this situation with the commitments that we've seen because we didn't lose card. And that's the most important thing. So if they pass here, we pass here. We go on to round 3, and it's like nothing happened, right? Probably want to tuck away Pred Dive here just because, well, we'll keep it for the throwaway. But Wrath isn't going to see any value in this matchup. Like, the ceiling on Wrath is probably like 6 points. So we'll tuck away Pred Dive, probably going into round 3, but Wrath had to go first at that point. And what's nice that we have a lot of proactive plays here in hand. Brightener is going to be really nice. Get rid of a couple of those. Serpent Trap's been played. We have to worry about maybe a second one from Hattori, so... And they did play Crushing Trap too, so that's another thing that's awesome. We made a really strong traps deck about a week ago. And if you guys are interested in playing traps, I recommend that you go check that one out. I think it's probably one of the stronger ones because it has points as well. And it's nice to get Frightener out there early because now we can just have Frightener pop out if they destroy a bunch of stuff. So I know that it's probably gonna be like whatever we play next will probably die. So if I put down like a Fuka, it's gonna eat. Wasn't expecting that. It's gonna eat yeah, both of these, so that's actually really nice. So the 3 traps collective played for 8 less. I mean, it still brought out Frightener. It's 5. Yeah, it wasn't that great. Sort of want to start separating the rows just a little bit. That's not too bad. So, seeing Hattori into a pitfall and seeing the other pitfall tells me that there's no second Serpent Trap. This can just go down safely at this point. And Scorch is out of the way. I'm not expecting like any other tall punish at this point. How much more can you have? Serpent, Scorch, like a Heat Wave. Of course. And Big Lust goes down here. We got 28 points on the board. Big win. Moving on to game 2. We got Onslaught. Now, you don't see Onslaught played a lot. However, it's one of those matchups where it feels kind of awkward for us because we want to have tokens on the board and they have every means to remove those tokens. You know, the cooldown leader is going to be huge. Onslaught usually indicates warriors, but not always. And if you're wondering why I put the Forktail in there, it's because when we have like the Ran warriors and the Sheetroll and stuff like that out on the board, it's a way to actually destroy all these units without using Glusty. So it's sort of like a pseudo Glusty if you think about it. And I tried the whole Itter thing, and it felt sort of conflicting with Glusty because it consumes all the tokens, but so does Glusty. I tried the Kikamores, like, and I found that those obviously consuming tokens to make them 3 is cool and everything, but then Glusty just doesn't work because we don't have enough 1s on the board. And I'm just thinking here, okay, we can put down Siri and maybe look for like a temple pass. Thinking Junit at this point. It's still alive though. So the thing about Skellige is that if they're playing warriors, their round 1 is tricky. It's hard for them to get points. And if they're averaging like 4, 5, 6 points per turn, I'm thinking that if they have 7 here, they're probably going to have to play down to 5 or 4 to get out of the round, because a lot of the cards have veteran, so they get better as the game goes along. They have some cards that you don't want to play in round 1 because of that, right? And I'm feeling pretty good here, like, and they could also have a hand that's just not, you know, it's bricked or it's just not optimal, right? They'd be overcommitting to play into the round, so I don't consider it a fluke. It was a calculated pass at that point. Now we have the privilege to play into round 2 when Skellige's not at their best, right? We want to have as many of those good cards that otherwise in round 3 would be horrible to play against come out in round 2 as possible. In the meantime, not play too much, but we have to sort of stay in the round long enough to see some commitments so that they don't pass on us. Both players 10 cards ahead. We pretty much play it like this as if we're trying to win it. Just make things a little bit awkward for them here. Let's put down Frightener. I like the non-interactive aspect of it all. It really helps us out. And I wanted to put in a Parasite, but I had a really tricky time in that 6, 7, 8 provision range. You know, there was considerations for like a K-Ran. I wanted to put Osroll because we needed points. Pugo just felt like appropriate because we needed points. Just it wasn't working out. The Were-Rat is actually pretty good because it'll proc our engines every turn if we could do the whole assembly line of units there. And it's unfortunate because, like, I remember back in early 2019 when the Arrakis Swarm leader was a little bit different. And it was a lot of fun. Like this Ren Warrior deck with the Forktail, with everything Glusty, Frightener. It was actually pretty crazy. And I think, like, I'll look for it. I think I have a clip somewhere that I took like a couple years ago. If you're new to the game, you wouldn't have seen this, but every time you used to destroy a token during your turn, it would like spawn a token off the leader or something like that. So like you would basically go through the whole combo and then get the points back. It was pretty nuts. And Ran Warrior wasn't boosting. Every time you destroyed a unit on your side, it would damage a random unit on their side. So it was pretty crazy. Like, the board was just a bunch of missiles. It was pretty cool. Putting where at to the like the far right, because we don't really want to consume any of our own cards here.
Give me some of that.
Starting to see the big play unfold. This is pretty nice. And again, just clicking it every turn for like that passive point here. And there is consideration to put down that Griffin. You don't want to put it to the right because you don't want to consume Griffin, because then you go in super tall, and if you click to get rid of the boost, then you have a full row. That's losing points in that case. Usually when people are playing the Dagger 2-blade, they've got some kind of wide punish as well. So I'm looking at potential Wild Boar of the Sea, or Offering to the Sea, or whatever. Hemdall, Gird. So it is a little bit annoying for our strat. I did have another deck, another game that I was thinking about including, but I didn't bother. It was against Mill, and they milled our Glusty, they milled our Sheetroll, they milled a lot of good things in round one. We still managed to win, but none of the combo was actually happening. We just won from sheer points because they didn't have enough points, so I felt like it wasn't the best example on like how the deck plays, so I didn't put that one in here. Just felt like a lot of empty space. It took a long time between turns too, roping like crazy, so and this is good. We see Fukusha come out in round 2, so now we don't have to worry about that later. I'm looking at the trades that we have, and for what it's worth, locations technically carry over. Frightener's fine. Defender out there, it's fine. The Defender in this deck is just basically to protect the Sheetroll and the Vran and stuff like that, so no, when you see a lead like that, it's not even worth playing into, especially with the rain on our side. But I feel like we can get one more turn, because that makes it look like we have an answer to their melee row. But under no circumstance would I ever play another turn beyond this. Like, it just would be out of reach. In fact, I would have, if you're unsure, I would have passed maybe one turn sooner, but it's one of those things where when I'm playing games for the content, I sometimes like to greed it a little bit more because I find it makes better content. You know, like seeing stuff like that, like the Morkvar come out, like we wouldn't have gotten that in round 2 had we passed a little bit earlier. But we do kind of leave ourselves a little bit vulnerable when we do plays like that, when we go pretty deep into the round, but it's fine either way. Glusty, you love to see it, but Glusty in this matchup's not very good. We've established that, you know, they have all the resources to remove that. Pred Dive's actually really nice here too, because if they play like a Herald or something like that, it gets taken away right away. We get double tall ponage, 2-point slams, and Nagelfars. Gross. Check this out. There you go. You love to see it. I was playing a game that I didn't record, but basically I took a Pred Dive onto a Goliath, which then spawned a token on my side and spawned or summoned the Griffin. So we basically had a 20-point Pred Dive, and it was really sick. So Coral comes down, that's not a big deal. Marjoram on that, it gives us an even better Wrath. Thinking about taking Griffin here. I'm also thinking about pulling into Imlerith because Wrath will just destroy whatever. Look at that. We did get Glusty back, so kinda good. Glusty plays for 8 points though, unless they make more ones. Lock, I don't think we care too much here. And at this point, you just go and you take that removal, and then they have the 1 point off the leader plus whatever they have to play. We've got 8 points. So even if they heatwave, let's say the 12, we're still fine. Doing Junid math, it's just fine. We won the game, not to BM, just to show you guys that it wasn't very close. 20-7. In a matchup that I would consider not very favored. Moving on to the last game of the day, we have another Precision Strike. This one's a little bit different, I believe, than the first one. First one was just like hardcore traps. I think this is going to be more of like no unit, but not traps. Just prioritizing what's in our hand here. What do we need? Rans are not very good in this matchup at all. Having a hard time finding a match where they were good. At this point, they're pretty power crept. This is not like a meta deck or anything. Kind of just, if you want to have fun, try something new. This is a huge throwback, so... I really hope with, you know, one of the patches coming up, eventually they do some leader reworks or add new leaders to the game, because It helps keep things kind of fresh. You know, changing the ability of the leader. They've done this in the past. It's pretty nice. Sometimes they remove things that are too OP, but there we go. Varan's down. I'm expecting it to get removed here. So we're just sort of trading. If they're throwing rebukes in the list, or if they want to take a leader ping plus a bomb, all these things are fine.
A wee hint. Dinna jiggle this.
And that's me just sort of trying to make maybe we could take a griffin here. Or we can greet it, right? Because bomb plus snipe, it's a little bit tricky here. But if either of those stay, then we can start destroying units with the griffins. We have all that sort of stuff. I'm thinking about holding on to Frightener for later, because Frightener's kind of nice in like around 3 when they're playing no unit. And Spider helps here, otherwise we would have had the Varan hit. We can boost it up, keep it a little bit safer at this point. And they've got 12 points, got 14, they're sitting on 5, so they're still ahead. No reason not to play. We have a really nice play with Imlerith coming down too. That's going to be a huge tempo swing for us. Was not expecting a Red Haze, because when I play it, I'm not super keen on the Red Haze. Like, I used to love it, but I find it played for 0 too often, or played for like 3 points if they, you know, knew to play around it. Take the Fuka here because we can, you know, take that that carryover, getting that pop unit put on our top deck just kind of helps us out a little bit. And anything we play at this point is pretty much going to proc Fuka, so it helps. If they hit it with a bomb, it technically heals itself on the Thrive. And we see the full leader swing here, that's perfect.
Don't leave me here.
Tori coming down. We still do have reach with Imlerith. There's no problem with that. There's a pretty big contrast on the board too, so like an offensive Forktail is not even bad here. And you love to see it pulling into Siri. That's obviously really gross. They got pretty good return on the Pitfall. So they click and go ahead, and that's probably our pass at this point. Yeah, Great Oak, huge commitment. And so we pass on that, we feel good about that. It's not even worth playing into. Then if they dry pass round 2, we could just play Siri Nova, and I don't think they're going to be expecting it at this point. Take the carryover into round 3. Like a perfect hand minus the Forktail at this point. The only thing Forktail would be good for here is to get the Frightener to work. Moving on to round 3, 8-point carryover. Red dive's kind of awkward here because we have, obviously, a big unit on the board, so we tuck that away. And because we have Glusty, you can just go ahead and put away Forktail at that point. This is kind of how I put it together. And there is a line where you could take Pugo off the Shield of Siri. I wouldn't say it's priority. To play around a Serpent Trap, that would just get rid of the defender. Up because we have a lot of specials, so I'm just kind of taking a guess here and saying, alright, if it's a Serpent Trap, you could take something. You know, I'd rather you take that than take my Glusty, take the Pugo, so... I don't think there's ever a time that we just discard the card. Because then we'd actually be discarding 2 cards to avoid that. Was not expecting that at all. It was kind of an interesting tech. I'm looking at it like, what? Yeah, just showing you guys that's basically what we saw at Blizzard. And their deck's just like made to make Glusty suck. Like, look at this, like, I can't get anything started here. At least we have protected points with the Frightener. Now, I remember this one, that was nice. Toad Prince for the win, comes in clutch. Perfect Toad Prince. Emphasis comes down. I don't think that's a big deal really at this point. Playing around with Tori, but also just looking for something to do here. And we'll just play off to the right of that. We don't need to turn that on. We kind of want to keep a lower unit there. And also keep the extra targets so that, you know, potentially we get more value from Pugo later on. Just looking at what they played. Coming down to the wire, but we are up quite a bit. I decide to hold off on the big points, play the Glusty here. One thing I didn't realize at the time is that we kind of played into an Igni, but we have an option here. There we go. That keeps it a little bit nicer at least. And if last card's Eldane, it's no contest, right? Eldane plays for... Oops, getting a phone call at the same time. So Eldane just won't be enough at this rate. We dodged the Scorch. Got 43 to 26. And good game. They clicked that out of frustration. We'll see you guys tomorrow.